DeaMonte Trayanum, who transferred from Arizona State to Ohio State. He played running back at Arizona State. He's going to play linebacker at Ohio State. Played linebacker at Akron Hoban. So he's got experience there. And then Tanner McAllister, who plays safety, but played under Jim Knowles, the new defensive coordinator at Ohio State, at Oklahoma State. Both of them were really interesting to talk to. Trayanum, just his story, why he decided to come to Ohio State, why come back to Ohio. It was interesting. He says family moved out to Arizona shortly after after he enrolled. They are staying in Arizona because it's warmer and there's a lot more sunshine. But now they're going to have to travel back across the country to their home state to watch him play. But he was really excited about the prospects of moving to linebacker. He said coming out of high school, he had offers on both sides of the ball, but I believe the way he put it was that he wasn't ready to give the ball up yet. And now he's kind of seen the college game, and he probably would have been the starter at Arizona State, but he wants an opportunity in the future. He sees that on the defensive side of the ball. He's had a lot of people tell him that that's probably his position going forward in NFL and things like that. And he wants to win. And that was the biggest thing he stressed, was he wants to contend for championships, Big Ten championships, national championships. Obviously, Arizona State, a fine football program, but hasn't been relevant at the top of the Pac-12 in quite some time. So he saw the opportunity to come back to Ohio State, a place he was familiar with because it was a finalist for him. He obviously is from the state of Ohio and has relationships here. So it was a good opportunity for him, move to the defensive side of the ball and get to work there. McAllister was interesting too because he knows Jim Knowles. He's been in the system. He's the only one in the program in terms of players that has been a part of what Jim Knowles wants to start working on with the Buckeyes this offseason. And obviously things will be different. You have different personnel and whatnot. But he certainly understands what's coming, where maybe some of the other guys, are just starting to get to learn that. And so he also knows Jim Knowles personally. He talked about how when he entered the portal, Jim Knowles was one of the first guys to give him a call and said, he wanted him to be here. And he saw this as a perfect opportunity to kind of build on what Oklahoma State's defense did last year, third or fourth statistically in the country in defense, and almost got to the college football playoffs. So he sees Ohio State as an opportunity. He's got 1 year left of eligibility to come in, play a big part. He, as a safety, he's more of like a nickel back. They have different names for that depending on what they decide to call it here, but he'll be closer to the line of scrimmage a lot than your traditional free safety. But he's going to help teach guys how to operate in this defense, and he hopes it helps lead the Buckeyes back to the college football playoff and a national championship.
Yeah, I did not catch the Trayanum transfer. So as soon as you mentioned his name, I thought that's one that got away a couple of years ago as a running back out to Arizona State from Ohio. So he's headed back to the Buckeye State, and as you just mentioned, some guys are looking forward to their future and get some input from people knowing that, okay, you project as a whatever at the next level, and he's making that call right now. And McAllister should be a tremendous addition, no question about that, based on what he performed last year and already knowing the defense. So transitioning from players to coaches, you mentioned Jim Knowles. Of course, the overhaul on the defensive side of the coaching staff. Who did you get a chance to talk to, and what stood out there?
Well, with Jim Knowles, I think there were a couple things that really stood out to me. The first was that at Oklahoma State, it took 4 years. The 4 years he was there, each year they got better. And we've talked about this when I've been on before. He acknowledged that he does not have time to wait 4 years to get the Buckeye defense back to being one of the best defenses in the country. And I don't know if next year they need to be a top 10 defense to get to where they want to go. This offense is so elite that I think this defense just needs to be good enough. And whether that's top 30, top 20, I don't know what that needs to be, but it doesn't have to be a top 5 defense right away. Jim Knowles' defense is complicated. I think it'll take some time, but he's also working with guys that were 4- and 5-star recruits as opposed to at Oklahoma State. And nothing against the Cowboy program, but let's be real here. They are usually recruiting at a different level than Ohio State. So he's got a different caliber of player that he'll be working with now. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But he acknowledged that there's not the time to transition these guys into this defense. He's got to get it going right now. And he also, there's a quote that I jotted down here that I thought was interesting that he said. about the defense. He said, we want to be able to create indecision for the offense and particularly for the offensive coordinator. So we want to be able to create multiple defenses out of simple looks and to be creative in a way that players can understand. And I think that's just news to Ohio State fans' ears, especially, the people that really know football. This Ohio State defense, obviously, you look at the numbers, it hasn't been good enough. But when you look at why it hasn't been good enough, I think Jim Knowles and what he wants to do is exactly what the Buckeyes have wanted to do, but just haven't been able to get there. And there's certainly the talent. I don't think that's a problem at all. I think it's just been the lack of a guy who's done it before, and not to take anything away from a Kerry Combs, who was a great cornerbacks coach, but he'd never run a defense before. And Ryan Day kind of pigeonholed him into a defense that maybe he didn't want to run. Now Ryan Day, and he said this, he wants Jim Knowles to be the head coach of the defense. He wants to bring in his defense, which is very similar to what Ryan Day wants to do. And he's going to run that thing. And so I think it was interesting and refreshing, assuming that gets done. That's exactly what the Buckeye fans have wanted for the last couple of years.